Hey guys, how are we all doing out there? I wanted to address a dichotomy that often occurs within the self-defense industry, and it normally comes from a specific group of people, and it's typically the people that don't ever want to get a sweat on or really have to prove themselves under any kind of stress-based scenario. And it's this one. A sport has got rules, a street fight does not. Okay, first and foremost, the essence of what they're trying to get is when you're training within a very limited set, then you can punch, you can kick, you can wrestle, but in a street fight, the opponent won't do that, etc., etc., etc. Well, the first things first is if you can't fight under rules successfully, you're probably going to have a hard time without them. That's one thing, because you've not got pressure-based approach in your training. The second thing is there are rules in street fights. If your instructor tells you there's no rules in street fights and they're teaching you self-defense, you have a bad instructor and you need to walk away from that school. There are rules in street fights and they're called laws, and you disobey them at your peril. Now, does this mean that you're going to have Marquis of Queensberry rules, come up to scratch, milling away gentlemen's agreements? No, of course it doesn't. And you may be facing the individual that isn't bound by rules with what they do to you. That doesn't mean you yourself can excuse yourself from those rules, not without being aware of the consequences. In a street fight, in a self-defense situation, whatever that happens to be, you are required to have a commensurate response. So if someone pushes you, you can't stab them 16 times. That would be an unreasonable response. If someone's trying to stab you, absolutely have at it, kill them back. That would be considered a reasonable response in the circumstances. Generally speaking, and there are individual variations within laws as to where the threshold and the line is drawn, but you're allowed to use as much force as is necessary in the circumstances and no more. Some have got a little bit more of a wavering approach to that. Some have more looser gun laws. Some have very, very tight gun laws. Same with blades, carrying weapons for self-defense, etc., etc., etc. But the fact remains, you can't go OTT. If someone's trying to steal your handbag or steal your purse or steal your bicycle, you can't beat them to death with a tire iron. It's unreasonable. But you can use force to stop them doing that. Where that force ends up morphing to, because if they then pull a knife while you're trying to stop them, obviously now we have a different situation. But the rules in self-defense are there. They're law, kids. You can't ignore the laws, or certainly not ignore the laws and expect there to be no consequences anymore when you can kick someone in the crotch in the middle of a boxing fight and expect there to be no consequences for that action either. So once again, the only difference between street and sport is in sport, you stop when a referee tells you, and in the street, you stop where you feel like it. That's what Hickson Gracie said, and it's one of the best definitions I've ever heard of it myself. Once again, when you train under pressure, you perform under pressure. Street sport has got nothing else to do with it. You need to be cognizant of your own techniques and tactics and what you're doing in response to the threat that's coming towards you. So you need to be prepared to go to the ultimate and take someone's life possibly, but it isn't always required. And the reason it's not always required is that's not how society functions. Laws are rules. Anyone saying otherwise, I'm not even going to get into this debate with you. You're just wrong. Take care, guys.